Hi there, I'm Gavin from Sad Fernando Guitars. I make, repair and love guitars. This is part one of a two-part series on an introduction to guitars. This is for people who've recently got their first guitar and don't know the names for bits. This is the what and where, if you will, of guitars. The next part will be how and why. More advanced. I've received lots of questions over the years, and it's probably good that I put them down in video form for you. So, if you've got your first guitar, it's probably like one of these three. So, an acoustic guitar, a Stratocaster type guitar, and a Les Paul type guitar. We'll go through them all separately and explain the names of things. How to start? Probably the best way is to say what's common to all guitars, and that is, at the moment, they usually have 6 strings. And usually is a word I'm going to use a lot, because there are always types of guitars that are slightly different. So, going to try and say what's common in all of them. However, the names of bits always change. We'll start with an acoustic guitar. We'll start at one end and go down. So this is the head, or headstock. These are tuners, or tuning pegs, or tuning keys. You turn them to tune the strings to the right pitch. This is the nut. The essential element of all guitars is that it is a string vibrating between 2 places, here and here. To make the note sharper, you make the string shorter. So, open, low noise. To make it higher, you pinch it off, high up. So, headstock, tuning keys, nut. These are the 6 strings. This part here is called the neck. We then have the body. On top of the neck, and you can see on top, because it's a different wood, is the fretboard. Into the fretboard is laid the frets. These are rounded off metal strips which you put your finger just before in order to make the note shorter. In between the frets, at the 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, 12th, 15th, 17th, etc., are fret markers. In here, they're made out of abalone. We've probably finished with the neck on the acoustic guitar now. Then we go down to the body. The body in this case is hollow and designed in such a way to amplify the sound of the string. There's bracing on the inside in order to strengthen it. It should be quite a thin top, thin sides, a thin back. This is called the sound hole, and this is the bridge. The little holes where the string goes in are called the kept in place by the bridge pins. That is the simplest way around a guitar that there is. There are always exceptions, and we'll start talking about them when we go on to the electric guitars, which is next. There's some debate about who made the first electric guitar, whether it was Leo Fender, Gretsch, or Gibson, or Les Paul, and it doesn't really matter, because this is probably your first guitar, and that's what matters. This is a Squier Stratocaster electric guitar, and it's based upon the Fender Stratocaster, which was made by Leo Fender in the 50s. Now, starting from one end to the other, we have the headstock. Different to the acoustic guitar, you can see that the tuners are all on one side. They're all in the same direction. Sometimes you have these little things here called string guides. Now what they do is bring the angle of the string down so there's a higher angle between where the string is and the nut is. The nut on this is quite thin, and there are grooves in it in order to guide the strings. The nuts are usually made out of affordable hard plastic, but they can be made out of almost anything. From bone, traditionally, brass I like to use, corian, which is a artificial stone, great fun to work with that stuff, or I think I've used antlers in the past, and for the vegans I've got somewhere a fake bone, which is a nut of some sort. I use a nut for a nut. The neck, as before, was from here to here, but you can see there's a big difference, which is the neck in this case is screwed into the body instead of put in through carpentry and glue. There are 4 bolts attaching it to the body of the guitar. Most of the time, the neck is made out of one piece of wood. The fretboard on here is made out of rosewood. You can see the frets again. And the inlays, which are dots. The body, instead of being hollow, is solid for the most part. This means that the body can be a lot thinner because it doesn't rely on the large thick body of the acoustic for reverberation and amplifying the sound. What it does rely on is the electronics that have been put in. In this, we've got volume and 2 tones, a selector switch, 5-way selector switch, and 3 pickups. Try and think of the pickups as electronic microphones. What they are we'll go into in the next video. What they pick up on, is the vibration of the string over a magnetic field caused by magnets, which inducts a current through coils in the pickup. Why is there 3 different ones? Depending on their position, certain frequencies will be more predominant. Closer to the neck, or closer to the middle point rather, the bassier and louder it will be. Closer to the bridge, it'll be higher pitched. It'll be the same note, but certain frequencies will be more predominant. The selector selects between the 3. The bottom position is the bridge pickup. The second position is those 2 pickups, the bridge in the middle. The middle position is the middle pickup. The next position up is the middle of the neck pickup. And the last pickup, the last selection, is the neck pickup. The bridge is also different. This one is made out of metal. They have 6 different bridge saddles, whose lengths and distances from the nut can be changed, as well as their individual heights. The white piece here is called the pick guard or the scratch plate. You'll never guess what it's there for. It's to guard against your pick and stop you scratching the body of the guitar. This is the output jack, where you plug in your cable for an amplifier. There is also, here and on the top, strap buttons to put your strap onto. This guitar has something known as a tremolo, which is, in the history of musical instruments, the worst named thing ever. Tremolo is a musical term which means the raising and lowering of volume. This doesn't do that. It's on a pivot with springs behind it and changes the pitch of the strings. We'll come into that in the second video. So that's a Stratocaster guitar. Around the same time in the 50s, Les Paul, a famous guitarist you may not have heard of, experimented with making a solid body electric guitar as well. He wanted to do this because he was playing in orchestras and couldn't be heard. He found that amplifying an acoustic guitar with a pickup, like we've seen there before, caused a lot of feedback, which is where the sounds of the pickup were going through the hollow body and the amplifier and making a squealing noise. It wasn't very good. He knew the answer was to get rid of the hollow body. Many artists at the time stuffed their sound holes full of cotton or socks or whatever in order to prevent this happening. He decided to make a solid body guitar. This is a modern equivalent of what he made then, and we'll start from one end and go down the other. As before, we've got a headstock at this end. Differently to the Stratocaster, we've got 3-a-side tuners, more like an acoustic guitar that we saw earlier. There is no better or worse having 3-a-side or 6 on one side. The nut here is slightly thicker and at one end of the fretboard rather than inlaid into it. No real difference there either. As before, this is the fretboard. You can probably start naming things now. And the frets. and the fret markers. Here they're rather more ornate, but they're in the same positions as 3, 5, 7, 9, 12, 15, 17, 19, 21. Different guitars have different numbers of frets. All it means is that you can play a higher note. The neck join on this guitar is different to the bolt-on neck of the Fender. It's almost the same as the acoustic guitar from earlier. There's a lot of debate whether this is a better or worse type of neck join. It doesn't really matter. The pickups here look different to the other ones. They're called humbuckers. They're twice the size because they have 2 coils in them next to each other. In the next video I'll explain why. And the bridge here is different. It is metal. You can change its height on these pegs, and you can change the intonation, which is the space from here to here on each string. This doesn't have a tremolo, but it does have 4 controls, 2 volumes and 2 tones. The pick guard or scratch plate is also smaller on this one. With this type of guitar, instead of it being one piece of wood, it's usually made of a block of mahogany style wood with a cap of about 15 to 19 millimeters of maple. That cap, if you can see from the side, is carved into a more pleasing shape. The selector here is only 3-way. Bridge, both, neck. There are intricacies to every guitar being made. For example, this one, you can see a white line around the outside of the fretboard and on the top of the body. This is known as binding. It comes from the acoustic guitar world, and it's there really for decoration. This also has strap pegs or pins at the top and the bottom. The bit here where you can see is cutaway is known as a cutaway. On the Stratocaster, these are more predominant here. That's known as the top horn, that's known as the bottom horn. There are also carves on the Stratocaster here, which is known as the belly carve, and here, which is known as the arm carve. That plays a chord. That plays the same chord. And so does that. There are a lot of similarities between all types of guitars. It's the differences that make them interesting. In the next video, I'll go in depth and wobble on for quite a long time about those differences, why they're there, and what they are for. Many thanks. I hope this helped you. And if you've just got your first guitar, congratulations. There are a lot of places out there to learn guitar online. I'll put some links below. Practice, get a good tuner. Electronic ones are available even on your phone. It's one of the best things I've ever done, is learning to play the guitar. And when you and your friends get together and can play together, It's a great feeling. Until next time, subscribe, more videos there. Here come some cats and Toodle Pip.